questioner is Senator Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary Johnson, for appearing here today and your testimony. I'd like to take a moment and ask a little bit about infrastructure and staffing at our ports of entry, an issue that you and I have discussed before at some length. Yes. As you're well aware, our ports of entry are essential for supporting trade and tourism, and how efficiently they operate can make or break our competitiveness, particularly in Michigan, along an incredibly busy corridor of business there. We asked the Department of Homeland Security to do two things: keep us safe and not slow us down as we cross the border, particularly when it comes to industry, just-in-time delivering agricultural products. I offered an amendment to the budget last month, which was co-sponsored by Chairman Johnson, to create a deficit-neutral reserve fund to support increased trade and travel, including conducting construction and increased staffing at ports of entry. And I'm glad that amendment was adopted, and look forward to continuing to work with the Chairman to support the economic growth and efficiency in our ports of entry. Secretary Johnson, as you saw when you visited Michigan last year, and we were together in the city of Detroit, and then you headed up to Port Huron after that meeting, that we have two of the 5 busiest land crossings in the country in terms of value of shipments in Detroit and Port Huron. These two crossings are critical for manufacturers, as I mentioned, for just-in-time delivery. Our agricultural sector, which is highly diverse in Michigan, requires safe and efficient transport across the border. And I appreciate the agreement reached, which I know you worked with the Canadian government earlier this year on the new international trade crossing, which will have Canada fund construction of the bridge as well as the customs plaza. And I appreciate your commitment to make sure that that plaza is fully staffed with CBP personnel, and I look forward to seeing that project move forward. I also strongly support the pre-clearance agreement that was signed last month between the United States and Canada, which will lead to expansion of pre-clearance locations for all modes of transportation. I think this is a very important step in realizing another one of the goals of Beyond the Border Action Plan that we had in 2011. But I do have concerns about the lack of action on another item from Beyond the Border Agreement, and that's upgrading the physical infrastructure at key border crossings, and one of those key border crossings where infrastructure improvements have not occurred is in Port Huron, the Blue Water Bridge in Port Huron. The Blue Water Bridge desperately needs expansion of its customs plaza, and it is ready for construction of that plaza. This is the 4th busiest land crossing in the country. It's the 2nd busiest border crossing on the northern border. In fact, the city of Port Huron was prepared, had some assurances from the federal government that this plaza was going to be expanded and enhanced. They acquired property, they demolished property, which had an impact on their tax base as they prepared the land for that expansion, and yet the expansion has not occurred. The land continues to sit idle, and it continues to be an economic drag on Michigan, on the city of Port Huron, and is really unjustified in my mind. And unfortunately, there's still no funding in this year's budget for the Blue Water Bridge Plaza modernization. Mr. Secretary, could you please tell me and the committee here what DHS and CBP's plan is for the Blue Water Bridge Customs Plaza expansion?
Well, as you probably know, Senator, I've been to Port Huron myself, right, in addition to going to Detroit, and I have seen the backup of tractor trailers over the bridge because of the few lanes open for the customs capability. I do know that a couple of years ago, or maybe even more recent than that, we added some stacking in the toll plazas to try to expedite the traffic across the bridge. And I've seen what the town did to prepare for the expanded customs plaza space. They literally demolished buildings to prepare for the expanded area, and for lack of funding, we're not able to get there. I think that the case for expanded customs capability at the Blue Water Bridge is clearly there, and we've got to prioritize, and I'm pleased that we are funding the personnel for the new customs plaza in Detroit for the new bridge there. That is clearly a very compelling case. The Blue Water Bridge is also something I'd like to eventually see us expand our capabilities there. I mean, you and Representative Miller have in a very compelling way made that case.
Well, how do we proceed to the next step to make that a reality? What do we do to move this forward?
Well, we've got to prioritize it, and I think that, look, I think that building the Customs Plaza for the second bridge in Detroit has got to be a key priority. Ultimately, I do want to get to the Blue Water Bridge, and that's something we ought to take a look at, perhaps in next year's budget.
Well, I would appreciate that if we could elevate that, sir, because certainly the bridge in Detroit is still a few years away. It's not built yet. That won't be coming online until 2020, and certainly it's significant, but we have a project ready to go, and when I don't want to get in a situation where it's Port Huron versus Detroit. You know, we have the number 2 busiest border crossing in the country and the number 4. When you have 2 of the 5, we need to do both, and Port Huron is ready to go now. So I'd certainly appreciate your comments and hope that we can push that to the top of the list as a border crossing that desperate need. Has the volume, is ready to go, the land has been cleared, and that can be done. And then we focus on Detroit, of course, when 2020 comes, which is an incredibly significant infrastructure project, not just for Michigan, but for the whole country. So I appreciate your efforts on that. I appreciate you coming out to Michigan, and I appreciate your comments today that you would like to make that a priority in next year's budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Peters. Senator Heitkamp.